It starts as a sound you don't recognize. Not traffic, not construction, something with a rhythm your nervous system identifies before your brain does. The ground is moving. Footsteps, slow, rhythmic, getting closer. And then you turn around. 13 meters long, 4 meters at the hip, a skull the size of a car, eyes forward, always forward, and it already knows exactly where you are. Not because you moved, not because you made a sound, because it has been tracking your scent from 2 kilometers away for the last 15 minutes. This is not Jurassic Park. This is the real biology of the most dangerous land predator in the history of life on Earth, placed into your world. Your streets, your city, your morning. And what the science says happens next is far more terrifying than any movie has ever shown you. Because the question isn't just whether you survive, the question is, what would you need to understand about this animal to even have a chance? And the answer will change the way you see every predator that has ever walked this planet. The animal. Before we put you on that street, we need to establish exactly what you're dealing with. Not the icon. Not the toy. The animal. The largest confirmed T. Rex specimens, including Sue, housed at the Field Museum in Chicago, and Scotty, recovered from Saskatchewan, reached body masses between 8,800 and 14,000 kilograms. The upper range is roughly twice the mass of a mature African bull elephant, which is the largest land animal currently alive on Earth. You have never shared a space with something this heavy. You have no instinctive frame of reference for what it means to be in the same environment as 14,000 kilograms of apex predator moving with purpose toward your location. At the hip, T-Rex stood 4 meters tall, total length up to 13 meters. That skull, 1.5 meters long in the largest specimens, is approximately your height, looking down at you. Now, speed. Because this is where popular culture has caused the most damage. The Jurassic Park T-Rex chasing vehicles at highway speed is fiction. But the overcorrection, the slow, lumbering scavenger barely capable of a fast walk, is also wrong. Peer-reviewed biomechanical modelling places T-Rex's maximum sustainable speed at 17 to 25 kilometers per hour. The average human sprint, 15 to 18 kilometers per hour, held for 10 to 20 seconds before significant speed loss. You look at those numbers and you think, I can match it. For about 15 seconds. And here is why that kills you. T-Rex's stride at moderate pace covered 4 to 5 meters per step. A sprinting human covers 2 meters. At equivalent speeds, T-Rex takes half the steps at a fraction of the proportional effort. It is not working as hard as you are. Its 17 kilometers per hour is a cruising speed. Yours is a maximum sprint. You are not outrunning this animal in open terrain. That option does not exist. And yet, terrain is everything. Because T-Rex had real biological constraints that the movies never showed you. And those constraints are where your survival actually lives. But before we get to that, we need to talk about the thing that determines whether you get to run at all. It found you first. Every survival scenario you picture begins the same way. You see it coming. You have time to react. The real biology eliminates that assumption entirely. In 2001, paleontologist Lawrence Whitmer and his team produced the first detailed digital brain endocost of a T-Rex, a 3-dimensional map of the brain cavity created by CT scanning a fossilized skull. What it showed changed paleontology's understanding of this predator's sensory capability permanently. The olfactory bulbs, the brain regions dedicated to processing scent, were proportionally enormous. Not large for a reptile, not large for a dinosaur, large by any vertebrate standard. For reference, a bloodhound, the most olfactorily capable domestic dog, has approximately 300 million scent receptors. It can track a 4-day-old human trail across rain, terrain changes, and competing environmental scents. Law enforcement uses bloodhounds because no field instrument matches their real-time tracking performance. T. Rex's olfactory bulb proportions suggest chemosensory capabilities at or above that level. In clean air, with a favourable wind, it could almost certainly detect a human from 2 to 4 kilometres away. In a modern city saturated with human scent on every surface, it would not be searching for you. It would be reading your exact coordinates from the chemistry of the air. Now add vision. T. Rex evolved forward-facing eyes. In modern vertebrates, forward-facing eyes are found exclusively in predators that require precise depth perception to execute an attack. Owls, eagles, cats, humans. Every animal whose hunting depends on accurate distance calculation before committing to a strike. T. Rex's binocular visual field has been calculated at approximately 55 degrees, comparable to a golden eagle, with visual acuity estimated at 4 to 8 times that of a healthy adult human. And here, right here, is where the most famous piece of Jurassic Park pseudoscience dies. T-Rex's vision was not based on movement. That line from the 1993 film is one of the most consequential scientific errors ever put into popular culture. Standing perfectly still would not save you. T-Rex had forward-facing precision vision that tracked stationary targets with the same acuity it used on moving ones. The real animal would have seen you, motionless, silent, from over 300 meters away. Scent from kilometers. Precision vision at hundreds of meters. Low-frequency hearing from its enlarged cochlea tuned to the sounds prey animals make when they move, every channel operating simultaneously, each compensating for the others. The encounter doesn't begin when you see T-Rex. It begins when T-Rex decides to close the distance, and by that point it has known about you for a very long time. The bite. You need to understand what happens at contact, because understanding it precisely is the only thing that motivates every decision before contact. Tyrannosaurus rex possessed the highest bite force ever recorded or estimated for a terrestrial predator in the entire 500 million year history of vertebrate life on land. Not the highest among dinosaurs, the highest in the entire terrestrial fossil record. Multiple independent analyses, finite element modelling of the skull, muscle mass reconstruction from bone scarring, computational force modelling converge on 35 to 57,000 newtons. Some analyses of the largest specimens approach 80,000 newtons at full power. For context, saltwater crocodile, current living record holder, 16,500 newtons. Great white shark, 18,000 newtons. Spotted hyena, famous for crushing bone, 4,500 newtons. T-Rex bit with a force 8 to 20 times greater than the most powerful predator currently alive on Earth. This is not an advantage of degree, it is an advantage of category. The teeth were banana-shaped, conical, not blade-like. Most predator teeth are designed to cut, thin, laterally compressed, optimized to slice. T-Rex teeth were compression instruments, built to penetrate, grip, and transfer all 57,000 newtons directly into whatever was between the jaws, while the neck muscles, among the most powerful relative to body mass in the fossil record, drove downward. We don't have to guess what this did to prey. We have direct forensic evidence. T-Rex feeding traces have been found on Triceratops sacral and pelvic bones, the most structurally reinforced bones in any vertebrate body. The bite marks show full tooth crown embedment into cortical bone, surrounded by radial fracture patterns propagating outward from the strike. The bone isn't cracked, it's shattered. Explosive compression from a single bite applied to one of the hardest bones a land animal produces. A human skeleton presents no mechanical challenge to 35,000 newtons of compressive force. There is no bone in the human body, not the femur, not the skull, not the pelvis, where this calculation is even close. But here is what matters most. The bite is not the beginning of the attack. It is the end. T-Rex's strike was a downward driving motion, the full mass of the skull and upper body committed to the target simultaneously. Not a lateral snap like a crocodile, a downward compression using the momentum of the entire anterior body. At 8 to 14 tons moving at speed, the initial strike is a collision. The bite closes on what the collision leaves behind, all of which raises the only question that matters in this scenario. Given what you now know this animal can do, is there any realistic path to survival? And the answer requires understanding something the movies never told you. T-Rex had real weaknesses. And in the right environment, those weaknesses become your entire strategy. The weaknesses. Every predator in the history of life has operated under biological constraints, mass limits, energetic costs, skeletal breaking points, habitat dependencies. There is no animal that has ever existed that was optimal in every environment under every condition. T-Rex had constraints, real ones, and in a modern urban environment, several of them create survival windows that simply do not exist in open terrain. First, body mass and skeletal stress. Bone stress fracture analysis of multiple T-Rex specimens shows healed injuries consistent with trauma from high-force falls and hard collision events. At 8 to 14 tons, even a modest fall generates impact forces in the range that fractures cortical bone. T-Rex was not reckless with its own body. It could not afford to be. A fall was potentially career-ending. This means it avoided unstable terrain. It avoided surfaces that couldn't reliably support its mass. It avoided sharp direction changes because the centripetal forces generated by a quick turn at speed in an animal this heavy approach the structural limits of the limb bones. A T-Rex navigating a modern city is not operating at its biological peak. It is moving through a terrain type it never evolved for, hard surfaces with sudden vertical drops, narrow corridors forcing direction, changes its skeleton resists obstacles at every scale. Its speed advantage is significantly degraded the moment it leaves open ground. Underground infrastructure is your most critical asset. Subway stations, utility tunnels, parking structures, building basements. Any space with a ceiling below 2.5 meters, T-Rex's hip height alone is 4 meters. That animal cannot follow you underground regardless of how precisely it can track your scent. Rule 1. Get below grade. Subway entrance, parking garage, building basement, any structurally sound space it physically cannot enter. You have just removed the predator's ability to close the distance. Distance plus a ceiling it can't fit under is the closest thing to safety this scenario offers. Water is your second terrain advantage. T-Rex could swim when forced to, most large tetrapods can, but its body proportions made it energetically expensive and mechanically inefficient in water. Front heavy, short forelimbs, massive skull. In water deep enough to lose ground contact, its speed disappears, its directional control degrades, and the downward strike mechanics it was built for become unreliable. Rivers, harbours, flooded areas, any water deep enough to reach its chest substantially change the encounter physics. Third, energetic logic. An active adult T-Rex required an estimated 40,000 to 80,000 calories per day. A 70-kilogram human represents approximately 32,000 metabolizable calories, less than a full day's requirement. In the Cretaceous, when multi-ton prey animals were abundant, you were not worth an extended chase. T-Rex was a rational energy manager, as every apex predator must be to survive long-term. Distance, underground terrain, water. Those three factors, combined with understanding the animal's energetic logic, are your actual survival strategy. Not speed, not strength, not weapons you don't have. Environmental intelligence. The predator is stronger than you. It is not smarter than you. And in a modern city, that difference is everything. But this brings us to the question that completely reframes everything we've discussed. Because we've been talking about one human, alone. What happens when T-Rex doesn't encounter one person, but an entire civilization? Civilization versus T-Rex. Modern Homo sapiens does not encounter threats as isolated biological organisms. It encounters them as a technological civilization, and that distinction changes the entire analysis. Standard military .50 BMG antimateral rounds deliver approximately 18,000 joules of kinetic energy and penetrate around 35 millimeters of rolled steel armor at combat range. T-Rex limb cortical bone thickness 10 to 25 millimeters. The penetration capacity against bone is not in question, but penetration and stopping are different problems. Mature African bull elephants, roughly half the mass of a large T-Rex, have been documented continuing to advance after receiving multiple fatal wounds. The challenge is not whether military ordnance damages T-Rex, it is whether that damage, applied fast enough, arrests the forward momentum of 14,000 kilograms already committed to a direction at speed. A coordinated military response, attack helicopters, precision-guided munitions, anti-material ground fire would be lethal to T-Rex. The long-term outcome is not in scientific doubt. The question is response time. And at 17 kilometers per hour, over 30 to 40 minutes before organized response arrives, T-Rex covers 6 to 11 kilometers of populated urban terrain. That is the part of this analysis that produces genuinely uncomfortable numbers. Now scale it up. Because T-Rex did not exist as one animal. Paleontological population density estimates for Hell Creek Formation, approximately 1 adult per 100 square kilometers of suitable habitat. Applied to the continental United States, 9.8 million square kilometers, that produces a theoretical population of approximately 98,000 individuals. 98,000 Tyrannosaurus rex distributed across a modern continent. On a landscape containing 340 million people, 93 million cattle, and an agricultural infrastructure with zero predator hardening against a 14-ton apex carnivore. The prey base in modern North America dwarfs anything Hell Creek offered. Commercial cattle feedlots alone represent hundreds of millions of animals, dense, stationary, with no instilled predator avoidance behavior, contained by fencing designed to keep cattle in, not to keep a 10-ton predator out. The agricultural collapse alone would be civilizational in scale within weeks. But here is the historical reality that this scenario always arrives at. Modern Homo sapiens has eliminated every large predator it has come into sustained conflict with, across every continent it has colonized, without a single documented exception. The Pleistocene megafauna of North America, mammoths, mastodons, short-faced bears, dire wolves, American lions, saber-toothed cats, were present when humans arrived approximately 15,000 years ago. Within 2,000 years, more than 70% of North American megafauna species were gone. The pattern repeated in Australia with 90% megafauna loss. T-Rex, for all its biological advantages in any individual encounter, is not exempt from that pattern. Modern civilization defeats it, definitively. The only open question is what the first hour costs before the institutional response reaches operational effectiveness. What this really tells us. Step back. Look at what this analysis has actually revealed, not just about T-Rex, but about both species in the same frame. T-Rex was the apex of 165 million years of carnivorous dinosaur evolution. Its sensory system was extraordinary. Its bite force has no equal in the terrestrial fossil record. Its ecological reign lasted 2 million years before a 10-kilometer asteroid ended the age of non-avian dinosaurs entirely. Not because T-Rex failed as a predator, but because the sky fell. 2 million years of apex dominance. And the only thing that ended it was an extinction-level impact event. And modern Homo sapiens, a species that has existed for 300,000 years, with no natural armor, no venom, slower than most of its predators, defeats it. Not because any individual human is a physical match, but because humans do not compete as individuals. T-Rex was the product of millions of years of evolutionary selection refining one organism toward biological perfection for one specific ecological role. Every improvement required generations. It could not think its way around a new problem in real time. It could only adapt across geological timescales. Humans run a different system entirely. Our individual biology is unremarkable. But our collective intelligence, the ability to accumulate, transmit, and apply knowledge across generations without genetic encoding, produces technological capability that evolves orders of magnitude faster than biology can. The gap between a flint spear and an attack helicopter is 300,000 years. Evolutionary biology cannot move at that speed. T-Rex was optimized for a world that no longer exists. Modern humans are adaptable to every world. And adaptability, at sufficient cognitive speed, beats biological optimization in every contest that runs long enough. Every extinct megafauna on every continent has already demonstrated that. But here is what deserves to sit with you after this video ends. We built museums for this animal. We named it the king. We made it the face of an entire era. More books, more films, more cultural obsession than any other creature in history, including everything alive today. And we did all of that as the descendants of the animals that hid from it. The small, nocturnal, burrowing mammals that scrambled through Cretaceous underbrush while T-Rex walked the earth. We are the offspring of the prey that survived by being too small to be worth hunting. And 66 million years later, those survivors' descendants are studying the bones of the predator their ancestors hid from, putting it in museums, explaining its biology to millions of people. Because that is what cognition does that raw biological power never can. It turns a predator into a subject of study. The bones are still here. 66 million years after the last T-Rex drew its last breath on the floodplains of what is now Montana, its skeleton stands in the great halls of natural history museums on every continent, under climate-controlled lighting, attended by researchers who have dedicated their careers to understanding every detail of its biology. Every child who has ever stood beneath that skeleton and felt something wordless and enormous in their chest, that response is real. That awe is appropriate. The animal that skeleton belonged to was a biological achievement that the history of life on Earth may never produce again. But the researchers studying it are the more remarkable story. Not because they are physically impressive, because they are doing something no predator in the history of this planet has ever done. They are understanding something dead well enough to resurrect it, not in flesh, but in knowledge, how it saw, how it smelled, how it processed the world, closing 66 million years of time with curiosity and tools and the accumulated intelligence of a species that almost certainly owes its existence to the fact that its ancestors were too small to be worth eating by the animal they are now studying. The apex predator of the modern world is not the one with the biggest teeth. It's the one that figured out how the biggest teeth worked and then put the skull in a museum and charged admission. T-Rex was the king of the Cretaceous. It earned that title across millions of years of uninterrupted ecological dominance. But the story did not end when the asteroid hit. It just changed protagonists.